Callisto Grand.
Good morning, credit controllers, cash foxes, and coffee clubbers. Let's kick off your Thursday. I'm Stefan, live from Hamburg in Germany, and here's your host, Mark.
Very good morning to everybody. I'm from currently in Budapest. Good to see everybody this morning.
Maybe it's a good idea if everyone puts in the chat from where are you joining or from which city, and maybe we will have an award for the most or the biggest distance to the center of all. But let's see if we can make it. What's on our plate today? Oh, let's take a look on the agenda and maybe on our playbook as well. So I will start with a short overview on what's new in 2026. And of course, our today's special is all about KPIs. We will talk about Goodhart's law, the Cobra effect, the KPI trap in credit control, financial KPIs, a KPI litmus test, and of course, all your experience with KPIs and with everything around KPIs. And but there's more, Mark.
Well, yes, we're going to just cover a few other things that we're doing. Like we're going to introduce a bit more about what we're doing, our AI knowledge hub that we call Cali. We'll tell a little bit more about what we started this year, the credit control espresso situation room coming up in London with my DSO manager, and of course the our one of our highlights of the year, our Credit Matters conference coming up in the middle of May. So yeah, that's we'll talk about that later. But for now, Stefan, back to you, sir.
Yeah, maybe regarding the playbook. So first of all, have a coffee at all time or something else that let's say works for you. Please share your view and your experience for the shy ones via chat. But please raise your hand if you like to speak up. So we would really appreciate if you speak up. Have your camera on, at least if you speak up. But maybe all the time. It's a courtesy to everyone here. And if there are poll questions, please join them. We will decide if we will have one. And of course, the session will be recorded or is recorded and will be available after on the Callisto Grant website, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. That's it from my side. So let's start with the first topic. So what's new in 2026?
Oh,
And I think Mark already mentioned this. We have a new format, an online format. It's called the Credit Control Espresso. It's like the shot. It's via LinkedIn Live. So it's a streaming format, different to this format we are currently using, where it's more like a webinar or a video session that's live for everyone. Whereas the LinkedIn Live is more, as it is a streaming format into one direction, so just broadcasting. So it's a little bit like a morning radio show where we meet CFO insights. Should be charismatic, conversational, smart, and short. It's a short format. It's every Thursday. So our day of the week is the Thursday. It's 8:30. I know that's a challenge, especially for UK people. 8:30 CAT. We will start really sharp. And yeah, we already started on January 8th. So we had two of these shots. So maybe if we take a look at all the online formats on one slide. So we have the espresso now. And of course, we still have the club. That's more the long pour because it's a 60-minute format. And of course, the credit clinic. And every third Thursday, we will have the long pour. Should be the credit control coffee club like today. So January, March, and so on, every second month, if possible, or almost every other month, the credit clinic. So February and April, I think, are already fixed. And then we have to see it through the year. And down below, you see the entire cadence. 2 shots, 1 long pour, 3 shots, 1 long pour through the month. And maybe now you got it why we've chosen the Beethoven Fifth as a signature audio. Anything to add from your end, Mark?
yeah, yeah. You were saying there about the Beethoven's Fifth. So you see, we got the dot 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 dash, 3 short sessions, 1 long session, right? And Beethoven's Fifth, dot 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 dash. See, we don't just throw this thing together. We put hours of thought into this. So
Month.
months even. Yes, indeed. So okay. So that's what we're doing every week. So please join us. And also, yeah, if you like what we're doing, please invite your colleagues as well. That's important too. So
And even if you can't make it at 8:30 a.m. sharp, or there will be a recording immediately after the live session. You can just take a look into the recording. It's on LinkedIn as well. We don't have to do anything, or it will be just there. And you can even scroll forward if you feel that it's not interesting, but you won't, I'm pretty sure. Let's dive into our today's specials, right? And I really like to start with one of my favorite cartoonists, which is Tom Fishburne. And I really like his view on dashboards here. It's a very large dashboard with all the different KPIs. And yeah, I don't have to read it out loud, but there is a question regarding the one in the lower right corner. And it, yeah, it measures how well we understand them all. I really like this because I'm afraid this is kind of our daily reality, right? But let's dive into KPIs. Maybe raise your hand if you know Goodhart's law. If you already had the touch point with Goodhart's law, I really would be interested. If just try to raise your hand. If not, it was Charles Goodhart who mentioned, I think, during a finance conference in London in 2012. He mentioned that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. And what this means is, and we will talk about that in a minute, that especially KPIs, so key performance indicators, should be indicators. They should not be target itself, because then they would be called KPTs maybe. But maybe it's easier to understand the principle with a completely different example. And I know that Mark has one, and hand over to Mark, right?
yeah, I hadn't heard of Goodhart before we started preparing this a few weeks ago. Um, and we'll come up with lots of examples as we go through the next hour or so. But one that's kind of really happened, or I mean, it was 130, 40 years ago in Victorian times, so maybe it's an urban myth, but it the reason why we're talking about the Cobra effect was that when the British Army were well, the British were in India, the government tried to reduce the number of venomous cobras that were in Delhi, I think it was, by offering a bounty for dead snakes. So people began breeding cobras to collect the reward. And when the program was finally cancelled, the breeders then released the snakes, making the situation worse than it was before. Right. So that's kind of an example of Goodhart's law in action, way before Goodhart came up with his interpretation. And what we want to explore today really is where we got lots more examples of this, where focus moves in one direction, and actually the consequences of kind of looking in one way, not really thinking it through, as Stefan said earlier. Yeah, so there you go. So the Cobra effect, an interesting one. Okay, onwards, onwards, onwards.
Okay. So I asked some of you, and yeah, most out of my network, to maybe come up with some comments on this on Goodhart's law actually, and I have two comments here. Don't know if Dan is already on this call, but maybe let's start with a comment from Gabriel from Seekwork in the US. He recently became a CFO for the US and Canada for Seekwork. Maybe for the ones who don't know Seekwork, they are producing colors for yeah, for the industry. They are headquartered here in Germany, and he, let's say, described, of course, what Goodhart's law really said, but in his last two sentences, he mentioned, and I will just read it out loud. For me, the key is straightforward. KPIs should describe behavior, not dictate it. They're meant to shine a light on what's really happening, not encourage teams to game the system or polish the optics. When a KPI drives better decisions, not just better looking dashboards, that's when it's doing its job. And maybe this is the right point in time to maybe ask the audience, what's your view on KPIs? Is this, yeah, your experience as well, that sometimes, yeah, KPIs are no longer just indicators, they become a target? What's your view on that? Any anyone who likes to speak up or put something in the chat? Do we already have some?
If there is nobody, so I can, but without video because I have a bad feeling. Thinking about the KPIs, I always say, I'm saying to my teams that this is not like I don't know, nightmares, that we are not reaching something, and we need to really see what is the behind the KPIs. For example, also this aging debt or something like that. It's a normal way that companies are growing, companies are established, and then they are decommissioned and liquidated. So basically, there will always be something that brings that your age debt will not any time will be zero. And you cannot go that way, that it's like a, I don't know, star in your KPI dashboard. As well, DSO, just looking into the deal, like details, what's behind that one. You cannot like claim or blame your team, accounts receivable team or credit team on the fact that there is a long DSOs in case somebody else is taking decisions on long payment terms. So you need to really look into the details, what's behind that one, and to understand what is a business. You cannot say, for example, for long manufacturing like trails, that DSO with 50 days is very, very long. As well, for the trader, for example, the same 50 days, then yeah, it's something that need to be looked into, why you are giving to retailers so long days, for example. So basically, it's really need to be analyzed what's behind and which industry you are working with, and what is the like economic cycle you are currently working. So yeah, that's my comment.
Oh, thanks a lot, Velga.
And you were saying about DSO, Velga, and that's one of the examples we wanted to highlight as well, was you can adjust your DSO. And this is a very good example. Like, if we think like DSO is receivables balance outstanding divided by sales. So you can kind of uh, adjust it, shall we say, by increasing the sales, right? And also it might also be that you kind of put a lot of emphasis on the current outstanding rather than the age debt and disputes and so on, right? So you can achieve your DSO target, but as you rightly said, and as some of the comments are saying, you got to look beyond just the headline, right? You can hit your DSO, but you could have 25%, 30% overdue or over 90 or whatever, right? But you could hit your DSO. So yeah, that is an example of really what we're trying to get at here, is not just take one thing as being kind of the holy grail.
And I think we already got some good comments in the chat regarding that. And one that's true in general is yeah, important is what you make from it and how it shows in your KPI ongoing. So what matters is context, right? And not a single KPI means context. You need more than one KPI, right? You need the entire, in the end, it's all within one system. It's all related somehow, maybe direct, maybe indirect. And that makes it quite complex to understand sometimes. And maybe this is one of the biggest problems, that it's easy to measure something, but it's not that easy to really get, yeah, the clue out of it, what to do next, right? Any more comments
We have a
from
we
your
have
end?
a good one here from Charles. I think Charles
Hmm?
gets the runners-up prize for being the furthest away. So Charles is in Dubai this morning, and I know we have Himanshu in India as well, which I think is just a bit further. So, but Charles, do you want to add to your comment here, because you make a really good point about how these need to be these KPIs need to be looked at regularly and maybe even changed. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark. Morning, everybody. Yeah, from a windy but warmer Dubai than the UK, so that's all good. But yeah, good morning, everybody. And my point, I mean, the first thing is just to say, my one of my favourite sayings is that if it's measured, it's managed. So we definitely need to measure. But what I found when I start off with, particularly with a new client, if it's on the back of a shared service centre or and we're dealing with the back end debt, we agree some KPIs for us as a DCA, but then those are very quickly changeable once we get an idea of the flow of business from that particular client. And I'm quite sure that it's exactly the same in all of your businesses when you get that many clients, when you get that many sales coming through, that the KPIs change very quickly. So what I've seen is that a lot of people say that we'll review the KPIs in a year's time, but that's just not enough. I would recommend every 3 months taking a look at them and review them if necessary based on the sales, the DSO, everything else. So review regularly is just my little tip. And if it's measured, it's managed. And I'll be putting that on a poster on the wall, one of my favorite sayings. But lovely to be here. Thanks, Mark.
No, yeah, thank you. And yes, I think you're right what you're saying, and often in my experience in shared services, it was kind of eye-opening, scary, interesting. However, there was a lot of things that weren't actually measured, right? Fundamental things for as older credit controllers like cash received per day and things like that, and now of course these are coming back to be very much in the fore. And also another kind of running theme along what we're talking about today is as we're all investing in AI and advanced technology and so on, that these measures are got to be fit for purpose as well, because AI can take things off on a tangent as well. It depends how the AI is taught and instructed. So and I think just carrying on from what you were saying, Charles, about looking at things regularly and checking if that measure is still relevant. If we just think about this decade, the things that have happened in this decade, if we go back to the COVID times or even in the last 12 months when there's been tariffs and things like that. Now with if invoices, let's say, if tariffs are being passed on to the customer and so you've got a 10% increase in the invoice value, let's say, because tariffs are being passed on. When you're trying to compare year on year or quarter on quarter, your measures can be skewed. So I think that's kind of an example of what Charles, what you were saying there about you got these things have got to be relevant and you got to sort of kind of be up to speed with. Wow, our sales have gone up 10%. Well, no, they haven't. We're now passing on these tariff charges or whatever else it is, right? So yes, just assuming it's going to be the same year on year is it can also be fraught with danger. Just seeing what else we got here. Stefan, you're saying
Yeah, I just got a quote from Dirk Fisher, a last minute one on via LinkedIn, and it's a very long post or quote. It's maybe on our website as well. And one thing was we measure what matters, sure, but too often we start managing only what we measure. I think there's some truth behind that. We do have, I don't know, Dan is not on the call, right? Because then I might even skip his quote here, because I got another one from someone who's actually on the call. Maybe we can show that. It's from Nicola, and it's more from a payment perspective. Nicola, you are on this call. Can you speak up and maybe explain from your point of view, from a payment point of view? In case you're speaking, I can't hear you.
He's gone shy. We'll come back to Nikolai. Right, so hopefully he'll join us in a bit.
Because there was Daniel meant to be a co-speaker today, but he couldn't make it. But what he did, he sent us a short video. And I really like to show that. Maybe that's a good idea. Just a second. So this is Danny. There he was, and now he's gone. This is Daniel from Deutsche Post and DHL. And he sent I think a 5-minute video, but the first 2 minutes are maybe something we should take a look into. So just a second, we'll start it.
Hey Callisto team, here's Daniel. I'm very sorry not able to attend today due to different other meetings I have here at DHL. I'm responsible for the credit risk at DHL. I before that was responsible for customer finance with credit risk, fraud, revenue assurance and so on at Deutsche Telekom for about 10 to 15 years. And for the topic of KPIs, I just wanted to give you my point of view to what KPIs can and cannot do in a business perspective here at credit and collection, credit risk or so on, especially from a huge company perspective where the EBITDA is one of the main KPIs for the company as a whole, and this is going to be broken down to every other department, especially in finance, and we also are challenged regarding EBITDA. But in our daily business, there are some different KPIs we are looking at. Of course, it is DSO as a KPI we are reporting on a monthly basis, but it's very stable here in our terms. The main KPIs for us are more or less the false positive and false negative rates. So if we are doing our job good, if we target the correct customers to do business with or to reject business, and of course we have insolvency KPIs like how many companies go bankrupt and what were the measures before that, were the payment behavior okay, were the payment terms okay, did we have some of these companies in scope or were they totally out of scope and went into bankruptcy on the day without even noticing anything from the in or outside in our teams.
Maybe that's a good point to stop there, because it was from a different perspective. What he mentioned in his KPIs was more like, does our credit management works well? Does the credit assessment really work well? Do we really understand what kind of companies we are onboarding and the ones we are rejecting? So maybe coming back to Nicola. Nicola, did you fix your mic?
I think I did. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yes, so I hear a lot about automating account receivable department, lowering DSO. But if your invoices are being paid late, it obviously affects your AR department. Following up an invoice of €100 is the same effort than following up an invoice of €10,000. So yes, we are guiding around 2,000 merchants. Heineken is one of them, to increase the auto-pay adoption. So for example, they are using the automatic payment method SEPA direct debit, so to get their invoices paid automatically. So that's an interesting KPI. What is the percentage of invoices collected automatically on time or before due? And if you're able to increase that percentage year by year, you're achieving your real goal, which is the lowering the DSO and automating the AR department.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. It's as I said, from a different perspective, from a payment perspective, but the benefit is obvious, right? Because it will help with DSO, and of course it will help to reduce the effort with late payments, because you can really focus on the ones where an auto pay would not be an option, like with the big OEMs. So with the larger customers, you can't do anything maybe about their payment methods.
It's there's a very I got two or three things that come up from the video and from what Nikolai was just saying
Yeah.
as well. When payment methods is an example of a measure that is not often brought into play. Right, so you look at the headlines, you look at DSO, you look at overdues, and so on, and they become the all, all kind of leading targets, which is not unreasonable. But as we're talking about kind of indicators, right? So yeah, if your key performance indicator is your overdues, your late payments, then you have to have other measures alongside that, and think particularly, I know, let's say the UK market, the US market, and I'm sure others that you guys will come up with. If you kind of put alongside overdues and cash collection and so on, what are our payment methods? How are we being paid? Are we being paid by checks or other kind of manual processes, which are still quite common in France and Spain and other countries, the UK and the US, certainly. It's this is the balance and the context that we're talking about, so yeah, I think running alongside sort of your principal targets, which should be the overdues, I think that should always be the number one. Is like, what are your payment methods and your particularly payment methods, because this also kind of goes into, as we're talking about advanced technology and master data, that it's another area that gets just completely overlooked, and particularly from our side, from credit control people these days very rarely look at master data and say, right, so how many payment methods have we actually got, and you quite often find that there are many and various, and a lot of them are unwieldy. So yeah, so to get to what Nikolai was saying about let's look at more automated ways to get paid is one example of getting this balance. Another one, we were talking about bad debts earlier as well. So if a KPI is your sort of bad debts, as in write-offs and so on, that's another one that can easily be abused, shall we say. You just don't write them off. So then your overdues go up because they stay on the receivables ledger rather than being transferred into the bad debt process against provision and so on. For those of you who know me and well and follow my ranting and raving often on LinkedIn, EBITDA is the one that I will I talk about often, because I think this is the most corrosive measure that we have in modern business today, right? And the invisible impact. So if EBITDA, I often talk about executives worship on the altar of EBITDA, right? And it becomes the all singing, all dancing target, the principal objective. But if you were to put that alongside many other measures, you'd see how damaging it is, shall we say? If you compare it with things like, even you could even correlate it alongside your basic targets, like your overdues, your DSO, because you'll see there's a correlation between, you can make your EBITDA the best that you want it to be, save all your money and all the rest of it. But if you're not spending on technology, you're not investing in the training and upskilling of your people, you're going to have a higher attrition rate, which is going to lead to poorer performance and so on and so on, right? So I think, yeah, I do bang on about EBITDA because I do think it's a false economy, right? So, but I think that's the ultimate example.
And actually, Mark, there's a good comment from Red regarding EBITDA, and
Yeah.
I think I got exactly a good match from with a visual. Hope you will like it. I will just put it on screen. Uh, because as Brad here mentions, yeah, it's a flexible friend who's fun to have at investment meetings,
Yeah.
and this is exactly the case here, right? It can be adjusted, of course, whereas cash is a fact. It's not a narrative, and I really like this one because I think this is. We always say cash is king, and this is the reason, because cash is a fact. You
Yeah.
cannot, yeah, adjust cash in the bank just by putting something on paper, right?
It's
Um,
it's alongside working capital, isn't it? That's another one that, working capital on a spreadsheet, if you're 1,000 kilometers away from the operation and you're just looking at your figures on your working capital, you receive your current assets are bigger than your current liabilities. Fantastic. But that could mean that you still got 25% overdue, and also that your inventory is hardly moving, right? But on paper, it looks great, right? So um, it's about this balance and this context, isn't it? Yeah, and EBITDA, I say, all this is kind of run parallel to each other.
maybe coming back to this to Goodhart's law and the KPI trap in credit control. Maybe this is a good visualization of what the problem really is. So good intentions on the left hand side, but unintended effects on the right hand side. So maybe is there anyone in the audience who'd like to maybe speak up on this trap? So when is the point in time when when a KPI becomes a target, and becomes even you get trapped in there. Or Mark, you can
Yeah,
also.
we got a couple of good comments. Velga is enhancing the Cobra effect. I think that's going to be a thing now. I think the Cobra effect is going to be rolling through many businesses. I hope so. Please, if you do use it, by the way, let us know, right? When you message us and let us know when you've been uh, sharing the Cobra effect with other people. But certainly, yeah, Velga's saying here, the if write-offs is a KPI, just then the chances are they won't get written off. They'll just stay as age debt on the ledger, right? That's and I've seen that happen in reality. That's quite a common. Sadly, that's quite a common thing. How it gets past audit, I'm not actually sure, but it seems to. And then Charles, you're right again. There's a lot of kind of no, they're not invisible, but there are other kind of factors. Yeah, like Charles is saying, if you've got overdues and you're looking at root cause analysis, then you've got return of goods. Certainly, rogue sales, or as in it could even be just like sending invoices for part fulfilled orders and things like that. I mean, this really happens kind of in quarter 4 and things. That's what you're referring to, Charles. Yeah. Do you want to? I mean,
Yeah.
this is what you do every minute of every day. Yeah. Do you want to embellish? Give us a few more examples of that, please.
We hear so many times about in our industry, in the credit industry, sales versus credit. And one of the ways that our credit manager clients, let's say, for example, if we're collecting debt at the back end of a large shared service, when we can go back to them with an early report that says, do you know that out of the international claims that we're collecting for you, let's say, for example, it's here in Dubai, in the Middle East, or in Saudi, or in Africa, these are the problems that we're seeing in your debts that are coming through to the system. And it might be high volume, low value, so they don't really take a great notice of that in their portfolio, in their ledger, and that's why we get enlisted. But when we can go back and go, we've taken your sales codes and this is where all your problems are, and these are the debts that you're experiencing, that's maybe where you want to have a quick first look. And so when that credit manager, CFO, group financial controller, whatever position, can go back to the sales director and go, these are your problems, they're not ours. You should be selling to these people in the first place. And there's a lot of things being said to get these sales that may not be the right things to say to capture a sale. So it's giving them back that information, and that shows up early in the key performance indicators and the root cause analysis on those KPIs as well.
Yeah. Yes. And I think what it is staying with the sort of the technology thing now, because we every minute of every day we're hearing about AI and dashboards and all the rest of it. And I think what what we're really emphasizing here is that yes, we need to have dashboards which can give an array of different views of different aspects, which is what we kind of want to promote. That's the best practice we want to get out of this today. But it's having the right ones, right? And they're not all just necessarily the same ones we had for years and years and years in the past. That we can now technology helps us to do, as you were saying, Charles, and Nikolai as well, what you guys have been saying. You can bring in all sorts of different factors here, and some of them can be operational. Like we said, number of return goods, payment methods. When you have all these on a dashboard together, you've got a very different kind of perspective on your business. Yeah. So and there's no reason why these things can't really should now be part of these dashboards. Yeah. So I'm just rattling through what you're saying as well, Brad. There's a lot to read there, but no, seriously, and it's our as credit control people, and we from Callisto's perspective, what we say is, we are in many ways we are the most important part of every company, right? We are the guardians of the most important current asset. We're the guardians of working capital. We're the guardians, the profit margin, and the purpose of these kind of conversations is to stimulate the ability to go back and challenge what's been convention for a long time, because no disrespect to the C-suite, but they're going to look at what they're going to look at, and they're probably still going to continue to look at the traditional measures, which is
And
fine.
maybe that's a good point in time, Mark, to take a look on the different layers
Yes, indeed.
of financial KPIs. So I try to put it on one slide. So it's really top down, so from profitability to cash reality to facts. So the first layer would be everything around the question: are we making money? So profitability KPIs like revenue growth, gross margin, and of course EBITDA. Ownership, of course, with finance and management. But the middle layer, that's the KPIs we are talking about, right? Efficiency KPIs. How well are we running the business? And not just from a financial point of view, as just discussed, but also as Chart mentioned, how's sales doing their job? What's the return rate? What's the complaint rate? Things like that. So receivable days here, DSO is mentioned here on the right-hand side. And then, of course, we have a third layer. This is, do we actually have the cash? So cash flow, free cash flow. This is where the reality check really happens. Ownership, of course, with treasury and so on. And I really like this last sentence. So credit control KPIs translate strategy into daily decisions or expose where it breaks. And then just some examples of them, but maybe there are some comments on this overview, because I think this describes quite well that if there's one company, everything is in one system, or should be. This is our context, right? You cannot just pick a simple, a single KPI and think about taking action on this KPI. It's all within context. Any comments from the audience? Would be happy if someone maybe speaks up on that.
Yeah, I think just to embellish a little bit more on some of the things we're talking about here, and particularly perhaps around the middle one, which is our area, some of the other contributing aspects that we can look at. And one I remember from my collection days at TNT, collection calls per day. Right now, so 30 years ago, whenever it was, we were targeted on 50 outbound calls every day. Right, so we were a high volume business, say TNT, the freight business, low value, high volume. We were measured and targeted on 50 outbound calls a day, but it was important that they were calls that actually had quality, right? I used to joke that you can't call your mum or your bookmaker 35 of those 50 times a day. They got to be meaningful calls, right? Charles, you're smiling, right? Because I guess this is your wheelhouse again, yeah. But and they have so that, but a negative of that, you can have a high number of collection calls, but they could be low quality, they could be rushed, not prepared, no follow up. So they're not actually doing what they're meant to do, right? But you can hit that target, but it could actually be negative because the customers might feel harassed, or it actually would look very unprofessional if nothing else, right? If you're rushing in and out of calls. And I guess that kind of runs alongside sort of promises to pay as well. If that becomes a measure, I think promises to pay is one that can be very tenuous, very ambiguous, and you can populate the promise to pay kind of section on your ERP or the system that you're using, based on what could be just kind of a speculative conversation that need not necessarily result in an actual promise to pay. Right? You say, well, yeah, the guy kind of said, yeah, he was going to check out the invoices and get them approved. That's not an actually kind of hard and fast promise to pay, right? So yeah. Has anybody else got any other examples of measures that are being used that are maybe in isolation? They're not kind of necessarily, how do we say, fit for purpose or achieving the absolute overall goal. I've got stacks of examples here, but I'd like to love to have some more comments from you guys as well. Can I come back to you, Charles? Do you measure kind of calls per day or productivity from your collectors, or if you do, kind of how do you?
Absolutely, we do. And obviously, calls are recorded, listened to very regularly. We have to look at the CSA guidelines to make sure that all our calls don't go into any harassment. Not that we do much consumer collections, we mostly do commercial and overseas collections, which has its own challenges when you've got different languages, as I know many of you have got many different languages in your shared service centres. So trying to listen back to those calls, if you don't speak a variety of languages, is a little bit more difficult, but it's more time consuming. But yeah, listening to the quality of those calls is where we upscale the training from, and that's really how we develop our collectors into top collectors who can negotiate very well. So for us, it's really important to listen to the calls, measure the calls, and look at the average output from each particular collector that we've got in any of the offices. And also, Mark, just to add a little bit of comedy effect this morning, I hope to put some smiles on your faces. From now on, every time I think of the Cobra effect, I want to see you doing a Cobra dance at the party at the Callisto Grand.
No, don't.
Well,
Brad,
no.
you know it makes sense. Come on, everybody.
I'm actually, as you wrote that, I thought I'm going to create the Cobra, right? Two or three lagers at Credit Matters, and I've no idea what it's going to be.
Mark, I'm gonna add to this that from now on, from this particular coffee club, we've all learned about the Cobra effect, and psychologically, I'm just going to think about you doing like a Cobra Jackie Chan type dance, and that's in there now in my head forever. So back to the subject of KPIs.
Bless you.
Charles, don't encourage him. I'm still traumatized over him doing the Macarena.
45 years to build my reputation, knackered in 45 seconds. God bless you.
People will love it.
But just got a message here from Zoe, who's lost her voice, and I know that feeling from before Christmas. There's a lot of it about. I just want to see what just let me read what Zoe's got to say here. Yeah, you need teams to understand the foundations are correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's this balanced approach again to like you're quite right, Zoe. You're saying like sales are very keen to set up payment terms, but that doesn't necessarily fit with the credit policy as well. That's something else I think we need to bring into the discussion here as well. So yeah, customers also pay 3 days after the end of the month or something like that. But if your payment terms are 30, that's so that's where a KPI again can be sort of negatively influenced, right? Because not everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet. And Himanshu, yeah, I think yes. I think it kind of stresses what we said at the beginning. Dashboards are more than a 360-degree view of metrics. It it is very much about the health. We said earlier, kind of referred to something similar earlier, and yes, and yeah, if you take, if we take that kind of health sort of subject, when we go for our checkups at the doctors and so on, we don't just look at one thing. You particularly as you get older, your blood tests look at all sorts of different things, and there's all the key performance indicators of how our overall health is, right? So I think that's a very good analogy there as well. So and another question for Nikolai as well, as we're on this subject. Just in your experience, a correlation between sort of changing the payment methods to more automatic payment methods and a reduction in overdues, bad debts, all the negative kind of aspects of what we do in credit control. So just a general kind of, I guess there is probably a direct correlation, a positive correlation. Yeah.
Yes, if we're talking about a recurring customer base, meaning collecting at least 3 invoices a year from your customer, then you of course advise to use recurring payment methods. So you need one approval, and then all future invoices can be collected automatically, almost all future invoices. So there is indeed a correlation. It's quite simple. So if you increase the autopay adoption, the percentage, then you're reducing the DSO time indeed. So that's a direct correlation. What I also wanted to mention is that sometimes, let's say you could have a KPI that says reduce DSO, but you could have another KPI that says I want to improve my customer relationship, let's say. So if you measure them separately or in isolation, let's say there could be a conflict, and that's also an added value, because if you just ask the permission, let's say in the onboarding of a new customer, I know that's not so directly related to finance, let's say, but do you agree with paying automatically, asking one time in the beginning, and giving them the added value for the customer, don't need to pay manually every time, increases the customer relationship than if you have to follow up every invoice they forgot to pay.
I think that you make a very valid point there, and it comes back to what we were saying earlier, that having a wide-ranging dashboard, a lot of the emphasis has to be on the master data, right? And there's something that we in Callisto have talked about ever since we started, right? Because it's very obvious, really. Master data is your garbage in, resulting in garbage out, right? And AI, really, all the emphasis on AI is exacerbating and faster showing the weaknesses in the company's processes, right? And I think what you were saying there about setting up a customer payment on an automatic payment method, and going back to what Zoe was saying as well about the payment terms, if these are measured and captured early on, then it does stop a lot of problems and stresses further up the chain, right? So you're absolutely right. So it's the good collection starts right at the point of the salesman talking to a customer, right? And being very clear and transparent about what our payment methods are, what our payment terms are, what our methods of payment and so on, right? So yeah, it's a very valid point there, and there is a direct correlation between quicker and slicker payment methods and more satisfactory results at the end, which ultimately, as Stefan very nicely illustrated in that cartoon earlier, it's all about cash in the bank at the end of the day, right? You can fiddle around with all other measures till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, it's about cash in the bank, isn't it? Yeah. So and how quickly
Cash is a fact, not a narrative. I think that's boils it down. We got one slide left regarding KPIs, and this is a simple test, or if a KPI makes sense or maybe doesn't, and it's just 5 questions, and if even you have to answer one of the questions with no, it's not a KPI, it's a distraction. So the first one, does it align with your core strategy? Yes, it should. Is it under your team's control? Because if not, it could still be a valid KPI, but maybe not for you if it's not under your control. Can it be measured? Sure. If not, it will be difficult to think about it. But can it be measured consistently and clearly? And this is sometimes maybe forgotten. And you could measure it, but it's still blur, right? So it does not make sense. Will it drive the behaviors you actually want? I think this is already a pretty complex question. And is it simple enough for everyone to rally around? Because I think this is maybe the most or the biggest barrier for KPIs. Are they really well understood by everyone? How they are calculated and what's the meaning or yeah, what's behind this KPI? Is there anyone who says, well, that it does make sense to have a simple test like this? Maybe it's even too simple, but yeah. If not, that's it from our side. From a timing point of view, this leaves us exactly enough for a minute to,
Wrap
yeah,
up.
what else? So I would hand over to maybe Mark to run
Yeah.
through what else, right?
Yeah, just to finish off on this slide before we move on to the other items within Callisto. Um, One of the driving thing through all of this is the credit policy, right? Now, the credit policies are often documents that don't get sort of the airtime they actually deserve, right? But a lot of what we're saying here in this litmus test is largely that is it in the credit policy? Is the credit policy fit for purpose right now? Does that need to be changed as well? Because it could be. So but yes, I think this is a very important slide, and please take this away and share all of this with your colleagues if you think it's worthwhile, right? And everybody in credit control, it is our responsibility to share what we've learned here and in other discussions that we have within the Callisto community, and to drive the changes, with our colleagues in finance, in sales, and everywhere else, because that impacts us, right? It's not. We have a great opportunity now as technology is driving a lot of things. Our responsibility is to say, well, we got this technology, or we're making these reports, we're looking at these KPIs. We need to have this really balanced, holistic approach, right? So, but don't assume that other people know this, right? Because everybody out there doesn't know what they don't know, right? So and now we know what we know, we can share this with others. Okay, that was a bit complicated for me as well. Okay, let's move on to what we're doing. So just very brief in the last 5 minutes, just tell you a bit more about Callisto. So we the AI Knowledge Hub is is a is a it's a chat, it's like chat GPT and so on for credit control, all right? And we're developing this because over the 15 years that Callisto has been in operation, we've gathered hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos and PDFs, white papers, documents, our own qualification material, and other valid information that we're going to bring in from a lot of our partners as well. And we're rolling this out for the benefit of our community, right? And the critical thing, really, the difference between us and ChatGPT and so on is this one source of truth, right? So if you on board with us today and become part of our community and embark on this Knowledge Hub membership, you can have access to the core information, right? And I generally think that as we all are learning kind of what AI can give us, one of the things that we're all going to really want is a comfort factor, a credibility. We go into any of these chatbots and ask questions, we want to know where the answers are coming from, right? And within business world, professional world, you can see any minute, 24/7, the source information that where our responses are coming from. So we're really excited about this. We're building this now. It's going to be the first phase will be available in quarter 2, and really be inviting everybody to give us a shout and ask us more about that. On to the next thing, please.
Yeah, so next Thursday we will have again a credit control espresso. Again, 8:30 a.m. CET sharp. It will be LinkedIn Live. You can find it on our LinkedIn company page under events. It should be listed there. You will find under previous events also the 2 credit control espressos we already had. If you want to take a look into it, that's the next shot. So the credit control espresso. But there's something going on in London in February, right?
Very delighted again. We're going back to the UK as part of our sort of growth within Callisto. We're doing a situation room, which is an in-house workshop where we have a series of situation scenarios, problem statements, which we share amongst our groups. And it's down to the groups to come up with how they would solve the problem if they were leading the company, right? So we've really looking forward to doing this in say in partnership with our good friends at My DSO Manager. So that's on February the 6th. If you're in the area and you'd like to be part of this, so just give me a shout and we'll add you to the register, right? So please do come and join us for that as well. It's a lot of fun. It's hard work, but it's a lot of fun. And yeah, so we'll be doing many more of these situation rooms around Europe as well, and maybe further afield. Who knows? So a couple of and yes, and of course here's the big one, our conference where we're covering subjects like this. I think for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with the Credit Matters experience, we go beyond the high level talk in our conference, right? Meaning that we have case studies on cash allocation and collections and disputes and third parties and yeah, all the real operational stuff. We go right down into the weeds, and the case studies are shared largely by people that are actually operational. So they've been through the pain, they have the experience, right? So it's not salespeople who are telling you how great things are or sponsors telling you how great things are. It's the operational people, right? And as Charles said, we have a gala evening, we have an awards evening, where there's good food, plenty of wine and beer going on. So that's probably when the Cobra will happen. We do have 50 places left for the conference as well. So we have an early bird that's still open until the end of January. Again, please get in touch if you're interested. We really want, and people are coming from all over Europe and beyond, by the way. It really is a high level, very big multinational shared services, a really diverse group of people and experience coming. So it's this is the one event that is for credit controllers, really, right? For all of us in our profession, right? So, and the last thing, I think we have one more, don't we?
Yeah, we want to say thank you for joining, because it's been fun, at least for us, hopefully for you as well. And of course, we like to see you again. Yeah, it's hard to see you during if it's a streaming event like the Credit Control Espresso, but we will see your comments anyway. But hopefully, we will see you on the next Credit Control Coffee Club, which is likely to happen then in March, and of course, the Credit Control or the Credit Clinic to happen in February. So. Yeah, I like to say thank you. Maybe famous last words. No Cobra dance, please.
From
Mark.
I'm sitting down. No, just really everybody, bless you all for coming. Thank you so much. It's been we have a very nice and diverse audience. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you. Yep, we're back next week, so for the espresso. Join us then. In the meantime, Carpe diem, seize the day. Take care, stay safe, God bless, and see you all soon. Thank you.
See you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Cheers, guys. Have a great day.